A new year is upon us, and with it come brand new goals, new games, and yes, new list videos. And in today's video, I'd like to count down 5 of my most anticipated upcoming MMOs. Now hold on 1 second before everyone starts flipping out because I can hear the questions already. But Force, aren't MMOs dead? To which I'd say, no? I mean, yeah, I'll admit things have looked a little rough for the past few years, ever since we saw that big push chasing the WoW money. Some games did fairly well for themselves, others failed dramatically. It seemed like the excitement around MMOs has been dying down, and yeah, we haven't been seeing a lot of big games in that genre for the past few years, but there are still things coming out, and a few of which this year I'm quite excited for. So, before we give up on MMORPGs, let's take a look at what's on the horizon. Kicking things off is Crowfall, an MMO that focuses on large-scale PvP, with campaigns that can last for months. This game is being described as a throne war simulator. Players will be fighting for control of land by taking over points of interest, assaulting castles, and pushing back their enemies. Campaigns work in seasons that mimic the real-world seasons, so each campaign begins in the spring and then progresses through the summer, fall, and winter. As the campaign comes to a close, resources deplete, enemies grow in strength, and the fighting gets more intense. Each campaign is dynamically created and filled with mountains, forests, ancient ruins, towns, and caves, all of which is made of voxels, allowing for some mass destruction of the environment. You can dig ditches, build tunnels, or break down the walls of an enemy castle. Combat in Crowfall will be a mix of action and tab target, with action elements including blocking, dodging, and sprinting, but the attacks and animations will be slow enough so that this isn't purely Twitch-based gameplay. Players will get to select from one of many combinations of classes and races. However, there's no traditional leveling system. Instead, they're using an in-depth skill system for customization. Players build their character by selecting a class, specialization, and skills from a range of options. There's no grinding for character progression. You simply passively get stronger as the campaign goes on. A lot of character strength will also be coming from gear, some of which can be found in the world, but most of the best stuff will be coming from crafting, and that's because Crowfall has a big crafting focus. Not only are the best items made by players, but so are cities, castles, and siege equipment. And although the campaigns are these limited time events, characters will persist outside of them within the Eternal Kingdoms. Here players have their own housing, which provides a place to store resources and items, and again, give the world some persistence. There is some PvE, but it's not the primary focus. They're simply monsters that inhabit the world to make it feel more threatening and alive, but there's no traditional PvE endgame like dungeons or raids. This is a PvP focused game. Oh boy, Crowfall is right up my alley. Massive scale PvP, siege battles, campaigns that last for months, really the kind of MMO that I'm excited about. However, I know that not everyone just wants PvP. People really enjoy PvE and progression, and not everyone's gonna love the art style either. So the rest of the games on this list, if you're not into Crowfall, these ones might be for you. Next up is Ashes of Creation. This promises to be an MMO where the world is shaped by the players. Many quests that you do will change the environment based on your decisions. A basic example will be, are you gonna save or destroy this little encampment? But more importantly, there's the node system. The node system comprises of these specific central hubs in each region of the game. Players work together to level up the node, growing it from what starts off as a small camp into eventually a sprawling city. The progression of this also unlocks new features and content inside of that region. But more interestingly is how the node system plays into the game's PvP. There are a limited number of total nodes that can be active on every server, and once that cap is reached, the only way to level up a new node is to destroy an existing one. This means that rival factions will constantly be fighting to destroy enemy nodes in order to build up their own. Another big pillar of this game is the player-driven economy and transport system. Players will be looking to trade goods between nodes to build up their wealth, something that reminds me very much so of ArcAge. However, in this process, other players can try to intercept those transports and steal those goods, which will make for some amazing dynamic open-world PvP. There is traditional PvE content available in the form of dungeons, raids, and world bosses, and PvP includes both the large and small scale scale, along with open world options and an outlaw system, the game promises a massive seamless open world with no loading screens between zones, and there's also these seasons that will be changing on a weekly basis to make the world feel more varied and diverse. Player housing can be built anywhere in the world and serves as a place not only to store your items, but also providing crafting stations and farms for your region. Ashes of Creation is by far one of the more ambitious MMOs that are on this list. The dangerous part of that is there's a lot of ambitious games, and most of them don't live up to those ambitions. There's also the big question mark of combat.
Oh, those guys are spooky.
Oh, it hurts.
This looks, good. Let's just say it hasn't been blowing my mind. Moving on to now a more traditional modern day feeling MMO, we have got Bless Online. This game features a lot of what you've seen in MMOs over the past 5 years. There's a 2-faction system with each faction having their own races and unique racial starting areas. Classes fill the typical fantasy roles, and each class has a long list of active and passive skills. However, they do this interesting option of limiting the number that you can have at any given time, making the ones that you pick very important. There's a fairly detailed character creator as well for those of you who like customization, and there's a traditional leveling and questing system. You'll get important main story quests that take you through the zones, side quests scattered throughout, all of which granting you experience to level up your character. There's also going to be a massive seamless open world that lets you go anywhere that you want, including into enemy zones and cities. There's traditional PvE in the form of group dungeons, raids, and world bosses. PvP does look to be a big focus as well, with 1v1 dueling, group arenas, large-scale 100 vs 100 siege battles, and open-world PvP. Bless really appears to be a fairly by-the-numbers kind of MMO. As I mentioned, that also means that it's not doing anything really new and exciting. And also, there's the concern of the fact that this game has already launched in 2 markets and failed miserably in both of them, and it coming over to the West is kind of the developers' last chance to really make this game anything. We're just hoping that they learn the lessons of those already failed launches and it ends up a little bit better over here. The next MMO on our list is Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, which looks to get back to the roots of challenging old school MMO content. They're going to be focusing on difficult encounters and a dangerous world that forces group play and social interaction, something that the developer feels is missing from modern day MMOs, and they're not wrong. Games have become more and more solo friendly, so it'd be cool to get kind of an old school kick. In fact, this old school design philosophy also bleeds into the class and combat system. Classes will be filling the traditional holy trinity of tank, healer, and DPS, and the combat will be done via the tried and true tab targeting system. They've also removed a lot of the modern day conveniences like map markers, quest helpers, and group finders, hoping to shift the focus on world immersion and social interaction. Adding to this, the world will be filled with very difficult enemies. We're talking most of the encounters will require groups to defeat. They promise to make the game challenging all the way through and not just at the maximum level. Exploration is also going to play a big role here, with some of the most powerful spells and gear found by exploring the dangerous parts of the world, and there's a perception system to help players find those very things. Weather also plays a key factor, with hot zones and cold zones, storms and deadly tornadoes, all of which have an effect on your character and the gameplay. Some weather will make you stronger, some weather weaker, other weather removing use of certain skills altogether. Yes, I understand this game looks like it's 10 years old, but it's on this list because they're talking about a lot of really cool things. The fact that you're gonna have to work with other people and build a community around this difficult content is something that I can get behind. There is, however, the fact that the last game to try to push this hardcore mentality was WildStar.
Raids. Oh, I'm sorry. For those who aren't hardcore.
Didn't turn out too well for them. And finally on our list is Lost Ark, an MMO that I've been anticipating for many years, and we're still not really certain of its upcoming release, which is why it's the final game on this list. This MMO is a hack and slash action RPG, so think Diablo 3 if it were an MMO. It features an open world environment alongside with instance raids. There are numerous classes filling all the roles you expect: warrior, mages, rangers, healers, and more, There's raid bosses, small-scale PvP including 1 vs 1 duels and 3v3 group matches. There are mini games to pass the time. There's crafting and gathering systems. There's even a sailing mechanic allowing you to explore the ocean in search of treasure or claim your very own personal island. This MMO has intrigued me for quite some time, but it still eludes us as we don't have a firm grasp on when we're going to be seeing a Western release of this. It's a game that's still going through development and still remains uncertain. However, with all of the footage that we've seen and everything we've learned about it so far, it is one of the ones that I'm most looking forward to. I just love the idea of a hack and slash action RPG with raids and PvP and gathering and crafting and social activities to do in your downtime. It sounds like it could be a heck of a lot of fun, so I hope we see it soon. And that is pretty much going to do it for my list of my 5 most anticipated upcoming MMOs for 2018. I know it's kind of disappointing that there's not a lot of big Western developers, but you know, I still love the genre and I want more of these to come out. MMOs are so much fun. Yeah, they're not too great for my personal life and getting real things done, but they're fun to play.